My name is Tammy T. I'm 34 years old. The moment my husband said, "From now on, my income is mine and you take care of your share," I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even blink. I just nodded. And that was the moment everything in our marriage started to collapse. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a structure that's been unstable for years, finally shifting under its own weight. I'm a senior software engineer in Austin, Texas. I make about $145,000 a year. My husband, Daniel Rosser, is 31, a marketing manager, making around $78,000. We've been married 6 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, Lily. And until that dinner, I thought I understood what our marriage was. I thought I understood love. I thought wrong. Because here's the truth no one tells you. You can be in a marriage for years and still be the only one actually carrying it. From the beginning, I paid for everything. Not metaphorically, literally everything. Mortgage $2,800, property tax $450, insurance $180, cars $320, utilities $380, groceries $900, daycare $1,400, medical $200, maintenance $300, dining entertainment, the let's enjoy life expenses. Daniel insisted on another $400 total, $7,330 every single month for 6 years. Daniel paid his phone bill, sometimes groceries. That's it, everything else my responsibility. And I didn't question it because I believe that's what love looked like: support, sacrifice, stability. Meanwhile, his money went to himself. Designer clothes, weekends, tech gadgets, brunches, trips, subscriptions. I didn't even know existed at the time. I told myself, it's fine. I make more. It balances out. It didn't. It just made it easier for him to never grow up. The shift didn't start with money. It started with influence. One Friday night, Daniel went out with his coworkers. Especially one woman in particular, Megan Cross, twice divorced, loud, opinionated, the kind of woman who calls selfishness self-worth and irresponsibility freedom. He came home that night different, quieter, calculated. And the next evening over dinner, he dropped it like a business decision. My income is mine now. We split everything evenly, like it was fair, like it was overdue, like he hadn't spent 6 years benefiting from the exact opposite system. I looked at him, studied him, and instead of fighting, I said, okay, 50-50. He smiled. That was his first mistake. That night after Lily was asleep, I opened my laptop. I pulled every financial record from the last 6 years, every payment, every bill, every transfer. I built a spreadsheet so detailed it looked like a forensic audit because that's exactly what it was. At 21:17 a.m., I finished the calculation. His half $3,665 per month out of his $4,800 take-home pay, leaving him just over $1,100 for everything else. No more luxury, no more illusion, just reality. I printed it, set it beside his coffee the next morning, and waited. He walked into the kitchen like it was any normal day, picked up the paper, started reading, and I watched the exact moment his confidence disappeared. "What is this?" he asked. "Your half." His face went pale. "I can't afford this." I leaned against the counter, calm, measured, unmovable. "Interesting," I said. "I've been affording the full $7,330 for 6 years." And for the first time, Daniel realized what fair actually meant. Daniel didn't pay his half that weekend. Not on Monday, not on Tuesday. And by Wednesday, I realized something important. This was never about fairness for him. It was about control, about saying the word equal while expecting the system to stay exactly the same, about wanting independence without ever touching responsibility. And when reality didn't bend to him, he defaulted to what had always worked before. Pressure, guilt, and backup. That backup arrived faster than I expected, and louder. I came home from work around 5:30 and immediately knew something was wrong. There were shoes by the door that weren't mine, a coat hanging on the rack I didn't recognize. And then I heard her voice from the living room, smooth, confident, already claiming space, like she belonged there. Megan Cross. I walked in and found her sitting on my couch legs, crossed, coffee in hand, smiling like she had been waiting for me while Daniel sat beside her with his arms folded, and that familiar defensive expression that always showed up when he thought he had support behind him. "Tammy," he said, like he had already won something. "Megan's here to help us talk." Our house," I corrected quietly. Not because I needed to win the moment, but because I needed to remind him that the foundation he stood on was built by me. Megan leaned forward slightly, her tone calm but sharpened with judgment. You're turning your marriage into a transaction, Tammy. Real relationships don't work like spreadsheets. Real wives don't nickel and dime their husbands. I let her finish, every word, every carefully placed accusation, every attempt to flip reality into something more comfortable for him. And when she was done, I asked one question. How much did your ex-husband pay you in alimony when you left him for not providing enough? The silence that followed was immediate and suffocating. Daniel turned to look at her. She froze for half a second, and in that small moment, I saw it clearly. She wasn't here for truth. She was here for strategy, to push me back into compliance, to reset the system, to make me feel like fairness was cruelty. Daniel tried to recover first. This isn't about her. This is about us. No, I said this is exactly about this. Two people trying to convince me that I should keep paying for a lifestyle you don't want to fund yourselves. Megan's expression tightened. You're being emotional. I'm being precise. That was when Daniel snapped. You're destroying our family over money. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel confused. I didn't feel defensive. I didn't feel like I needed to explain myself. I just felt clear. No, I said I'm exposing it. Because the truth was this wasn't new behavior. It was just finally visible. For years, every time something cost money, I absorbed it. Every time something required responsibility, I handled it. Every time he had the chance to step up, he stepped aside. And now that I had drawn a line, he wasn't trying to meet me halfway. He was trying to drag me back. And when that didn't work, he escalated. Fine, he said. If you want to play like this, then don't expect me to cover anything either. That's the point, I replied calmly. That's when I knew something else was wrong. Something deeper than just entitlement, because there was no fear in his voice. No panic about actually paying his share, just irritation. Like he had a fallback plan I wasn't aware of. I didn't react to that. I noted it because patterns matter. And the moment someone stops being afraid of consequences, it usually means they've already prepared for them. Megan eventually stood up, her energy shifting from confident to dismissive. You're making a mistake, Tammy. Men don't stay in situations where they feel controlled. I almost smiled at that because for 6 years, control had never been the issue. Silence had. She walked out like she had delivered a verdict. Daniel stayed behind, pacing, agitated, trying to figure out why the pressure hadn't worked. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't move toward him to fix it. I didn't soften. I didn't adjust. I just went about my evening like nothing had happened. That's when things really started to break. He began paying. Not consistently, not cleanly, but enough to feel the difference. Every transfer came with tension, every bill with resentment, every expense with commentary, and the lifestyle he had built on my income started collapsing piece by piece. The lunches stopped, the subscriptions disappeared, the casual spending dried up, and with it, something else surfaced. His frustration wasn't just about money. It was about losing comfort, about being forced into reality, and about something he wasn't telling me. Because 2 weeks into this new fair arrangement, when Lily's daycare called and told me his half hadn't been paid, not late, not delayed, just completely ignored, I realized this wasn't resistance. It was deflection. When I confronted him, he didn't even look up from his phone. A mother should handle childcare, he said. That sentence changed everything because in that moment, I understood the real truth. This wasn't about equality. It never had been. Daniel didn't want fairness. He wanted freedom when it benefited him and dependence when it cost him. And the second I stopped funding that illusion, something underneath it started to show. Something calculated, something prepared, something I hadn't seen yet, but I was about to. I paid Lily's daycare in full that day because my daughter was never going to feel the consequences of her father's pride. But I didn't let it pass. I documented everything. The invoice, the date, the missed payment, the exact words he used, because by then I understood something that had taken me 6 years to see clearly. When someone refuses responsibility consistently, it's not a phase, it's a pattern, and patterns leave evidence. That night, Daniel went to shower, and I was walking past the bathroom when I noticed his iPad on the counter, unlocked screen still glowing. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't need to. The truth has a way of finding you when it's been waiting long enough. And what caught my attention wasn't a message or a photo. It was a banking app I didn't recognize, not our joint account, not the account he usually used. Something else. I picked it up. $22,000. For a second, I thought I was misunderstanding it. But then I opened the transaction history. Small transfers. 500, 800, sometimes a 000, spread over 8 months. Steady, intentional, and visible enough not to raise suspicion, but consistent enough to build something real. And suddenly, everything that hadn't made sense before snapped into place. He hadn't been struggling to pay his share. He had been choosing not to. He had been building a safety net behind my back. While telling me equality was unreasonable, my hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I expected anger shock something louder. But what I felt instead was cold clarity, the kind that settles in your chest when you finally understand that the problem is not temporary, it's structural. Then I checked Venmo. Payments to someone saved as our dinner weekend. Hotel split. A small heart emoji next to one of them. My stomach dropped, but not in confusion and confirmation, because by then I already knew. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. I scrolled, $3,400 over 4 months. 3 separate Airbnb bookings in San Antonio, dates that matched his work trips. Every lie aligned perfectly, every absence accounted for, every late night explained. I didn't confront him. That's the part people don't understand when the few hear this story. They expect the explosion, the shouting, the accusations. But that only works when you're still hoping for honesty. And I wasn't anymore. I took screenshots every transaction, every payment, every piece of proof, sent them to my phone, locked the screen, put the iPad back exactly where I found it, and walked away before the shower stopped running. That night, he kissed me goodnight. I smiled back, because when you're collecting evidence, you smile. At 1 a.m., I sent everything to my brother. At 2:13 a.m., my phone lit up. I found out who R is. He wrote, "You need to sit down for this." I was already sitting. I just wasn't ready for the next part. The next morning, I met him at a quiet coffee shop across town, the kind of place where no one asks questions and no one pays attention. He was already there, laptop open, phone ready. And when I sat down, he didn't greet me. He didn't soften anything. He just turned the screen toward me. Ryan Mercer, Senior Marketing Director at Daniel's company. The air left my lungs. Screenshot after screenshot. Dinner receipts, photos, timestamps, Airbnb confirmations. The same green silk blouse I remembered seeing Daniel comment on in one of her social posts. Dates that matched every conference, every late meeting, every urgent work trip. It wasn't random. It wasn't emotional. It was organized, sustained, intentional. And the worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was the planning, the money, the quiet way. He had been building an exit while standing in the house I paid for, calling himself trapped. My brother looked at me carefully. "What do you want to do?" I picked up my coffee. Cold, bitter, untouched. The math, I said. No confrontation, no scene, no warning. Strategy? Because by then I understood something else. This wasn't just betrayal. It was leverage. And I was done being the one without it. I hired a divorce attorney that same afternoon, Margaret Chen. Calm, precise, the kind of woman who doesn't react. She calculates. She listened, took notes, asked a few direct questions, and then laid it out clean. The hidden account matters, she said. The transfers matter. The affair matters, especially because it was funded with marital resources and the financial imbalance over 6 years. That matters more than anything. "What do?" I asked. "Act normal," she said. "Gather everything and wait." So I did. For 2 weeks, I became the version of myself Daniel expected. I cooked dinner. I smiled. I listened. I didn't question anything. And every night after he fell asleep, I saved evidence. One file at a time, one lie at a time. Then Wednesday came. Daniel mentioned another trip. "Conference in San Antonio," he said casually. Same tone, same pattern. I didn't react. "Have fun," I said. He studied me for a second like he was checking for cracks. Then leaned in, kissed my forehead, and said, "I love you." I smiled. "I love you too." And for the first time, it wasn't about him. It was about timing, because the moment his car disappeared down the street that Friday afternoon, I moved. The second Daniel's car disappeared at the end of the street, I didn't hesitate. I didn't second guess. I didn't sit there trying to process emotions that had already been replaced by clarity. I moved. I had already prepared everything. The apartment was secured 15 minutes away, quiet, safe, with a small playground visible from the window, so Lily could wake up and see something peaceful instead of tension. Her room was ready, soft purple walls, her stuffed elephant waiting on the pillow. A place that felt like stability, not negotiation. That first night, I packed everything that mattered. My clothes, important documents, Lily's belongings, her medical records, her school files, her favorite books. The photos I couldn't leave behind, the life that actually meant something. Everything else stayed. I didn't want Daniel to notice what was taken. I wanted him to notice what was gone. When I picked Lily up, she held my hand tightly and looked up at me with that quiet curiosity she always had. "Mommy, are we going somewhere?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah, baby," I said. "We are going somewhere better." She didn't ask anything else. She just nodded like she trusted me completely. And that moment mattered more than anything I was leaving behind. By Saturday morning, the divorce petition was filed. No drama, no confrontation, just paperwork. Sunday evening, my phone rang. "Daniel," I answered. "Where is Lily?" he asked immediately, his voice tight, controlled. But underneath it, I could hear something new. Fear. "She's with me," I said calmly. "What are you talking about, Tammy? I came home and the house is empty. Your office is empty. Her room is empty. What is going on?" I leaned against the kitchen counter in my new apartment and let the silence stretch just long enough for it to settle. "How was San Antonio?" I asked. There was a pause. "Fine," he said quickly. "The conference was." How was Ryan? Silence, not hesitation, not confusion. Silence, the kind that confirms everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just laid it out. "Room $412, I said. Airbnb on the Riverwalk, 3 bookings, $3,400 in Venmo, dinner, hotel, split heart emojis. I have all of it." He broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the sound of someone realizing they had underestimated the person they thought they were controlling. "It's not what you think," he said. "It's exactly what I think." "Tammy, listen." "No, I said you listen." For the first time in this entire process, I let my voice sharpen. Not emotional, not loud, just precise. You used money I earned to build weekends with another woman while telling me you couldn't afford your share of your own daughter's daycare. You told me fairness was unreasonable while you were funding an escape plan. You told me independence mattered while you were depending on me to maintain your life. He didn't respond because there was nothing left to say. "Good night, Daniel," I said, and I hung up. My hand didn't shake. My voice didn't break. Inside, something was screaming. Something that had loved him for 6 years. Something that had built a life around him. But I didn't let it take control, because if I did, I would go back. And if I went back, I would teach Lily that love means tolerating betrayal. Within minutes, my phone exploded. Calls, messages, voicemails, his mother Megan, different versions of the same script. "We can fix this. Think about your family. You're overreacting." "No, we couldn't fix this." Not after he had turned our marriage into a system where I carried everything, and he quietly built something else behind my back. That night in the new apartment, with Lilia asleep beside her stuffed elephant, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Silence. Not the kind filled with tension. The kind filled with choice. The kind that comes when you finally stop pretending. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt like I was no longer disappearing inside my own life. 3 weeks later, everything that Daniel thought he could control collapsed faster than he ever imagined. And the way it happened told me something important. He never understood the difference between confidence and advantage, because the moment advantage disappeared, so did his confidence. 5 days after I moved out, a certified letter arrived at my new apartment. I opened it at the kitchen table, while Lily sat beside me eating cereal, completely unaware that her parents were now 2 opposing stories written in legal language. And as I read through it line by line, I realized Daniel hadn't just reacted. He had tried to rewrite reality. Full custody of Lily, $4,000 a month in alimony. Half my savings, half my retirement, half the equity in the house I had paid for almost entirely myself. Grounds abandonment and financial abuse. I read it once, then again, then I laughed not because it was funny, but because it was so detached from the truth that it almost felt like he had convinced himself it might work. Me, the woman who had paid over $500,000 in household expenses, who had covered daycare, who had held the entire structure together, while he quietly funded another relationship, was now the abuser. I called Margaret. She didn't sound surprised. "I expected this," she said. "The person who files first doesn't win. The person with better evidence does. We had the evidence, all of it." Margaret didn't send a reply. She sent a package 47 pages, every page structured, every claim dismantled before it could stand. 6 years of financial records showing the imbalance. The hidden account, the transfers, the Venmo payments, the Airbnb bookings, the messages. The refusal to pay for Lily's care, every contradiction laid out cleanly. At the bottom, one line. Daniel's claims are not only unsupported, they are directly contradicted by documented evidence. His lawyer received it on Thursday. By Friday, Daniel fired him. He didn't hire another because there was nothing left to argue. And that's when everything around him started to fall apart. The woman he had been seeing, the one he thought was part of his future, disappeared the moment things became real. Blocked him everywhere, cut contact completely. Because what she wanted was the version of him that had access to my money, not the version who now had consequences. Megan's circle turned on him too. One of her friends even reached out offering to testify because when people realize they've been part of something ugly, they start protecting themselves first. His mother called me a few days later. Her voice sounded different, not defensive, not superior, just tired. I raised him to expect everything she said, and offer nothing. This is what it cost. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, at 11 p.m., there were 3 quiet knocks at my door. I knew it was him before I opened it. Daniel stood there, thinner, quieter, stripped of everything he had been hiding behind. No anger, no performance, no strategy, just someone who finally understood that control had limits. "I'm not here to fight," he said. I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure he belonged in the space anymore. "I know what I did," he said. "All of it. I didn't help him. I didn't interrupt." He admitted everything. The money, the account, the trips, the lies. Listening to Megan, convincing himself he deserved more while taking more, turning me into a system instead of a partner. I listened. When he finished, the silence felt complete. "You're right," I said. "You deserve to say it." He nodded. "But hearing it doesn't undo it." "I know," he said quietly. And that was it. No shouting, no crying from me. Just the final understanding that some things don't break loudly. They just stop existing. He took a key out of his pocket and placed it on the table. "I'm moving back in with my mom," he said. "The house is yours." I didn't react. I told my lawyer to drop everything. He added, "You can decide the terms. I just want to see Lily." "She's your daughter," I said. "That doesn't change." He nodded. Then he left. The door closed softly behind him. I sat there for a long time, not thinking, not reacting, just letting everything settle into something that finally made sense. Then Lily walked in, still half asleep, climbed into my lap, and wrapped her arms around me. "I'm lucky too, Mommy," she said. And just like that, everything became clear. The divorce finalized in August. No trial. I kept the house, shared custody. Lily with me most of the time. No alimony. The evidence made sure of that. Daniel kept his hidden savings. It didn't last long. He moved back with his mother, started therapy, cut Megan out of his life. I got promoted. Senior staff engineer. More stability, more peace. Now every Friday, Lily and I make pizza together. She falls asleep on my chest, and I carry her to bed. And those quiet moments matter more than anything I ever paid for. Do I regret the spreadsheet? No. Do I regret the fight? No. I regret the 6 years I spent confusing love with self-raiser. He said his money was his. I agreed. And in doing that, I realized something he never expected. My peace was mine.